Hey, I'm Rob from JestaThaRogue.com and I'm going to show you how to play Founders of Teotihuacan. This is a game for 2 to 4 players with additional solo rules at the end of the video. It plays in about 60 minutes, is designed by Philip Gloax and is published by Board and Dice. Become the best architect in this great pre-Columbian civilization by building resource generating buildings, bonus acquiring temples and point scoring pyramids. Do your best to score the most points and win. So why not Teotihuacan? Click on the subscribe button for one how to play video every month and build yourself a lovely pyramid by leaving a nice comment on top of a bedrock of clicking like and share. On to setup. Assemble the 2-part game board and put it on the table. Place the wood, stone and gold resource cubes nearby. Buildings, temples and pyramids are made up of different shapes and are considered size 1 to 5 depending on how many spaces on the player board they take up. For example, these tiles from left to right are size 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Place a number of wood, stone and gold buildings on the left section of the board according to the table on page 4 of the rulebook. For example, in a 3-player game, that's 1 of each building, but 2 of both the size 2 buildings. For all player counts, add 2 of the green, blue and orange temples in the middle of the board. Shuffle the green, blue and orange rectangle worship tiles and place them face down on their spaces. Put 2 square green, blue and orange pyramid tiles on their spaces. Give 1 pyramid of each colour from the supply to each player and place the rest next to the game board. Shuffle the bonus discs and place them face up in their spaces, leaving the 3 right hand slots empty for a 2-player game as printed on the board. Put the red eclipse marker at the top of the round track and the black eclipse marker on the space at the bottom matching the player count. Remove any mass tokens when playing with fewer players than the number shown on them. For example, the tokens that say 3+ will only be used in games with 3 or more players. Stack them up so the highest value mask is on top and return the rest to the box. Give each player a player board, return the rest to the box. All players use the A side of the board for their first game. For future games, players can use the asynchronous B side shown with this symbol in the top right. Either way, all players must play with the same side of the board. Players put a blank pyramid tile in the centre of the pyramid grid in the middle of the board. Players get an architect meeple, a small scoring token and a small favour token of their colour. In a 2-player game, players use all 6 of their action discs. In a 3 or 4-player game, players start with 5 returning the spare to the box. Choose a random start player. The game suggests picking the youngest. They put their architect meeple above the board and gain the first player token. Players in turn order place their architect meeple on a different sides clockwise around the player board, so player 2 is on the right, player 3 at the bottom and player 4 on the left. Players put a small favour token on 0 on the pyramid track on the game board and the small scoring token on 0 points on their own player board. In turn order, players will place their 3 pyramid tiles anywhere on the pyramid grid, gaining the reward printed on the board. Now we'll talk about the correct placement of these tiles and the rewards gained when we look at the constructor pyramid action later on in this video, but for now just know that players are going to be building all 3 of their pyramids at this stage of setup. Also keep in mind at this point of setup the worship tiles are face down, so if you gain one during setup, you're gaining it blind from the top of a stack. When everyone has built, the next and final step of setup is to reveal the top worship tile, also flip over the top tile of each stack. And the game is played over 3 rounds in a 3-player game and 4 rounds in a 2 or 4-player game, so everybody takes even turns at going first. On a turn, a player will either perform an action or pass. To perform an action, place any number of action discs on an action space already containing a disc which includes the bonus disc, and take the relevant action. This means that empty spaces left for a 2-player game will not be used. There is a maximum of 4 discs allowed per action space, including the bonus disc. The board is divided into 3 sections, and when placing action discs on a space, players can take the build action in the section above or the influence action in the section below. Let's take a look at the build actions at the top of the board first. These are denoted with a hammer icon. The left action is to construct 1 building from those available on the main board. And the building size must be equal to or lower than the current action strength. Action strength is equal to the total of all discs on the action space. For example, this space contains the bonus disc and 2 player discs, so it has an action size of 3, so it can build a building of size 2 or 3. On a future turn, if another player plays a disc on top of this to bring the space up to the maximum size of 4 discs, they will have the action strength of 4, even though they only played 1 action disc themselves. And the building must be placed within the architect's reach. The architect's reach is the 2 quadrants in front of them on the side of the board the architect is on. Buildings must stay within the empty spaces within the quadrants of the architect's reach. They can cross the border between quadrants as long as both of those quadrants are within the architect's reach. Then add a resource of the matching type next to each orthogonal empty space around the building. If one of these spaces already has a resource from a previous building, you could choose to either not add a new resource or replace the existing resource with a new one so there's only ever one resource on a space. Resources can be placed in spaces that go outside of the architect's reach into an adjacent quadrant, but not into the pyramid grid spaces. On future turns, if you place a tile on top of resources on your board, those resources will be discarded. If all mask spaces in a cluster are covered with buildings or temples, take the top mask and score the points. For example, this yellow cluster is now fully covered, so the player will take the top yellow mask worth 4 points. Points are scored on the point tracker of the player board. The middle action is to construct a temple. Pay the top 2 resources shown next to that temple by discarding them from anywhere on your board and place the temple on your player board. Temples require an action strength of 3, 4 or 5, and action strength can be increased by paying extra resources shown in the grey circle. For example, the blue temple is 4 squares big, so requires an action strength of 4. The player has only played 1 action disc for an action strength of 2, so they will need to pay 2 wood from their player board to make up the difference, plus the 2 stone for the cost of the building itself. When paying for temples or pyramids in this way, 2 gold can replace any 1 resource. There is a reminder of this printed on the main board. After building a temple, take either of the face-up matching colour worship tiles and keep it next to your player board, then replace the taken tile. If the temple finishes off covering a cluster of masks, again, take the matching colour mask token and score the points. The right side build action is to construct a pyramid. The action strength required for a pyramid is 4, and this action strength can be increased by paying 1 gold per level required as shown in the grey circle. Pay 2 gold and 1 wood to take a pyramid tile and place it on an empty pyramid space within the architect's reach, which are the 6 pyramid grid spaces closest to the architect. Pyramid tiles can be placed on the second level if there are 4 tiles underneath and all spaces for that tile are within the architect's reach. Once all 4 second level tiles are in play, the third level tile can always be placed on top, finishing the pyramid. When you place a pyramid tile using this action, you gain 2 points as shown on the space you took the tile from. When building on the ground floor of the pyramid, gain the reward under the tile. And let's look at those rewards. Remember, you will gain these rewards when you place your 3 pyramid tiles in the pyramid grid during setup. If it's a building, put it into play adding the resources as normal. For a temple, put it into play, then gain a worship tile as normal. For the 1 and 2 point spaces, gain that many points and then may take a building of the type shown, either wood or stone, and put it into play, adding the resources as normal. Now it's important to remember, when you gain a building or a temple from a bonus from building a pyramid tile, you take them from the supply and not the main board, you ignore Architect's Reach, and you can't place them on any mask spaces on your board. The worship tile allows you to take 1 worship tile and replace it with a new one as normal. Remember, when you take this bonus during setup, you are taking the tile from the face down pile, so you don't know what you're going to get. The 4 point symbol is just that, gain 4 points. Okay, that's the 3 build actions. Let's look at the 3 influence actions denoted with a parchment. The left influence action is to produce resources. Add up to 1 resource next to each building on your player board if there is space to add one. A new resource can be produced replacing an adjacent existing resource if required. Instead of producing resources, a player can add 2 one-size buildings within the architect's reach and add resources as normal. The middle influence action is to make an offering. Resolve a previously claimed worship tile and return it to the bottom of the stack face down. All of the green and blue worship tiles and some of the orange tiles give you a goal to achieve on the left that will allow you to score points or take the action shown on the right. For example, this green worship tile asks that you spend 10 resources from your board to gain 12 points. This green worship tile asks that you spend 5 resources from your board to build any pyramid tile from the supply. This blue worship tile asks that you have a size 4 stone building and a size 4 gold building on your player board to score 8 points. Some orange tiles just give rewards without a condition. For example, these 2 tiles both give 3 points, but also give a bonus influence or build action respectively. The right influence action is to gain Favour. Move the Favour token 1 space right and gain the number of points shown. The player may also return a worship tile from their play area to the bottom of the stack and add a new one of the same colour. And that's all 6 available actions. Now let's look at the bonus discs. A player may resolve the action of the bonus disc if they are the first player playing action discs onto that space. The parchment and hammer allow any influence or any build action respectively, with the bonus build action using this action's build strength. The resource and 1 victory point symbol allows you to add any resource to any empty space on your board. It doesn't have to be next to a building or within the architect's reach, and gain 1 victory point. This bonus disc lets you calculate the action strength as 1 greater. For example, putting 2 action discs on this bonus disc will give an action strength of 4. The 2 point symbol is just that, gain 2 points. After a player's turn, they end their turn by moving the architect clockwise 1 edge around the player board. And instead of taking an action, or if a player runs out of action discs, they can pass and drop out the round. You don't move your architect when passing. And when all players pass, the round ends. Move the sun marker 1 space down the track. Remove 1 action disc of each colour from the game for each player and return the remaining action discs to the players. Shuffle all the bonus discs and replace them on their spaces. Refill all buildings, temples and pyramids from the supply back up to the amount placed on the main board during setup. And if you ever can't fill them up because there aren't enough in the supply, just play with fewer tiles. Then pass the first player marker left and start a new round. When moving the round marker, if it ever moves onto the eclipse marker, the game ends. For each temple in the quadrant, score 2 points for each pyramid tile on the ground floor fully or partially in that quadrant. For example, this pyramid has 2 blue tiles on the ground floor in this quadrant, and there are 2 blue temples in the quadrant. 2 times 2 is 4 points. For each pyramid tile on the second or third level of the pyramid, score 3 points per temple in that quadrant. Pyramid tiles only need to be partially in that quadrant to count, so for example this blue pyramid tile is in both the quadrants on that side of the board. The tile on top of the pyramid counts as being in all 4 quadrants. And after adding all that up, the players with the most points are the winners. Okay, I'm moving on to the solo rules, so for everyone who's leaving now, remember to like, share and subscribe and all that good stuff, and thanks for watching. For everyone who's sticking with me, we're going to take on the Founders bots. Set up the main board for 2 players as normal with all 6 action discs, but set the game for 3 rounds. Set up your own play area and choose a colour. As you're the start player, your architect goes on top of the board. Complete all setup steps as normal, including building one of each pyramid tile on your player board and gain the bonus. Take 1 favour token of the 2 unused player colours. These will be the first founders. Take 1 of each pyramid tile and place them randomly in a row. Take 1 of each resource. Randomly place 1 on each pyramid tile. Place a favour token of 1 founder on the leftmost tile. Repeat this with another set of tiles, resources and a different coloured favour token, completing the priority track. Take the 12 action discs of the first founders and put them in a bag or another container you can randomly draw from without being able to see them. Put the first founder architects in the empty action spaces on the left and middle sections of the board. Put the stacks of mass randomly under each section of the board. Roll the 8-sided founders die 3 times to get a random cluster, builder and other challenge from the table on page 3 of the solo rulebook. For example, rolling 8 on the cluster challenge section asks that you complete your pyramid before the game ends, or you can't win. 5 on the builder challenge table will permanently reduce your action strength by 1 for each action you take in the game. And 6 on the other challenges track prevents you from using 2 gold as a wild resource when building. Onto the game, and you as the player will take your turn as normal. Once you have taken your turn, you'll take a turn for the first founders. Firstly, draw 2 action discs from the bag. If they are different colours, fully resolve one before the other. If they are the same colour, perform one action using both discs together. First, place the discs on any action in the same section as that colour's architect. If there is not enough room to place the discs, move the architect one section right with the right side of the board wrapping back around to the left side, then place the disc. If a single action disc was used in the building section, remove the smallest building from the main board matching the type of resource on the first founder's priority track. For example, if the favour token is on a pyramid with a stone resource, remove the smallest available stone building. If both action discs used on the turn are from the same founder, remove the largest building according to the priority track resource. In the temple section, remove the temple matching the colour pyramid the favour disc is on. For example, if the favour token is on the orange pyramid tile in the priority track, remove an orange temple tile from the main board. The construct a pyramid action works in the same way. The first founder will remove a pyramid tile matching the colour on the priority track. If the resource or colour priority track doesn't match any of the available options, choose any other option for that action. For example, if you need to remove a blue temple but there are none available, remove any other temple. If there are no options available at all, for example there are no pyramid tiles to remove, then ignore the action entirely. After taking an action, even if the action was ignored, move the favour token 1 space to the right, and just like the architect movement, this will wrap around from the right back to the left. Also, after each action, move the architect 1 space right as described earlier. And the round ends immediately after the player has played all of their action discs. Ignore any other founders discs remaining. Return the bot action disc to the bag and set up for round 2. At the start of round 2, before the player turn, draw 1 action disc and resolve the bot turn as normal, but remove the top mask that shares a column with the action space that contains a first builder action disc. At the start of round 3, before the player turn, draw 2 action discs and resolve a bot turn as normal, and again, remove the top mask that shares a column with an action space that contains a first builder's action disc. After the 3rd round, check your challenges. If you failed any, then you lose. If you did not, add up your score as normal, subtract 80 points and check the table to see how you did, with a positive score required for victory. And that's how you play Founders of Teotihuacan. Thanks for watching. Remember to like, share and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when a new video goes live. You can follow me on Twitter, Insta, Twitch and YouTube at JestaThaRogue and find the blog at JestaThaRogue.com. I've been Rob aka JestaThaRogue and I'll see you soon.